Welcome to the Denton Vibe with Diva Girl Ellie, powered in part by Classic of Denton. The views and opinions expressed by the show hosts and their guests are those of the show host and guests, and not necessarily those of the sponsors, DentonRadio.com, or the Denton Convention and Visitors Bureau. For more information, visit the Policies and Procedures page at DentonRadio.com.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on the Denton Vibe with Diva Girl Ellie here at DentonRadio.com. I hope everyone is keeping really cool today. It's really thick outside today, and I was just looking at all the little dogs everywhere on the square. They're so cute. They were having some travels around the block here, and we had one in the studio, or not in the studio, but in the Welcome Center. And today we have Myriam Reynolds with us today. Thanks for joining us here in the studio, Myriam.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy to talk to you. I have been wanting to talk to you since I met you a long time ago. Probably like a month ago,
yeah,
2 months
ago, something like that.
Yeah, so I met Myriam at one of my art classes that we were co-hosting with Iris Candelaria over at Milpa, and you were one of the students in there. So
It was my first painting class since UNT, I think.
Nice. So you joined us. We had a good time, and then I found out that you actually do art therapy.
I do. I'm an artist and an art therapist. Yes.
Very interesting. So we're going to be talking about that today, and we're going to get to know more about her, and we're going to, just know everything about you. We're just going to,
oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
In 30 minutes. In 30
right.
minutes, we're going to know your whole life story.
All right.
But definitely tell us who you are as a Dentonite and what your Denton story is, actually.
All right. My Denton origin story. All right. So born in Mexico, raised in Houston.
Nice.
A couple of friends came here to go to art school at UNT, and at that point, I didn't know that I wanted to study art because it just seemed risky. Mm-hmm. But I like that I had some friends here, so I came to Denton. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of a bad choice, I like to let me go where my friends are, but that's what happened. So thankfully, those friends brought me here. And then I just loved UNT once I got here. Changed my majors a few times and ended up with art finally.
Nice.
I just had to make sure there was nothing else that I wanted to study, get it all out of my system, and then ended up in the art building. I sort of like crossed the campus of UNT, and the art building's kind of in the corner. And anyway.
You made your way.
It
was like a Monopoly board.
It was all the way to the little like northeast corner of campus where the art building is.
Nice.
So yeah, majored in art, stayed in Denton afterwards, and was just part of such a cool, just artist and music community. It was just amazing when I was here. All of my friends were musicians and local bands. All of my friends were artists. So stayed in town for a few years, worked around town, started working with kids, but then ultimately decided to go to Colorado for art therapy school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how long were you out there in Colorado?
Oh, wow. We were out there. Well, let's see. I stayed after I went to school. So 22 years, I think we were in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did take a little hiatus break from Denton.
Texas, all together, yeah.
Okay, and you came back.
Yes.
Okay, a lot of people come back. People can leave all they want to, but you're coming back eventually.
You do come back. And interestingly, so we're looking at the whole state of Texas and, where do we want to live moving back from Colorado? And it was Denton. I mean,
nice.
Yeah.
It was the vibe, the Denton vibe, y'all. There's a reason for that.
Yes.
So, okay, so you're back here in Denton, and then what happened when you got back? What was your life like once you got back? Because obviously you had unfinished business here.
I kind of did, but I was so, I don't know, drawn to working at the university. That totally worked out great. Mm-hmm. Got in there, started working with art and music students, totally felt at home, and kind of like pride in my school. It was this weird, because at the time UNT, when I went to UNT in the 90s, it wasn't a big sports school, and obviously we were known for the art and music school and all of that, but it wasn't a lot of like, it's a little bit more that way now, but I sort of felt it, even though I wasn't sort of outward about it. I had my t-shirts and I had my, I had my swag, but I didn't really, I guess know how much I loved it, but I was kind of drawn back to it and just wanted to work with UNT students and be part of the university.
Okay, so you actually do work with students and are part of the university, correct?
Yes.
So you have planted your roots here now, deep in the heart of UNT.
Yep.
And you're working there now as far as What is your title there?
Well, I'm a counselor and an art therapist, and I have a third title, which is the liaison to the College of Music and the College of Visual Art and Design.
Oh, very
So basically
cool.
what that means is that I work with art and music students.
Very good. Hey, you're
Right?
probably having
Those
a
are
lot.
your people.
Yeah, those are my people.
My people too.
Yeah, so you're having a lot of fun with all the creativity that's going on, and all the talent in this town is full of it. So
it's unbelievable.
tell me what it's like to be, I mean, because you have the counselor side of it, which is, completely different realm at the university, and then you have that whole art. And now, are you advising as art and music, or
No,
how do you tie them in?
Okay, so it's all through the counseling center.
Okay.
So the student counseling center that any UNT student can access. And I just kept noticing that I was getting a lot of art and music students, and we thought, well, let's make this official. Let's start a relationship with the College of Music and the College of Visual Arts and Design, kind of make this a thing where we can communicate with them, tell them what's going on, with the students, kind of generally, not specifically, obviously. And just sort of like, kind of make it official, what I was already doing. Talk to the professors there, that kind of thing, just a relationship. So, it's just been a dream. I mean, I really couldn't pick better people to work with than my artists and my musicians. They're just amazing. They're so inspiring.
Yes.
So I do mental health counseling. So it's straight up counseling. We do a lot of talk therapy. I do a lot of performance anxiety with the music students. And then I do art therapy kind of as part of that role. So it's not separate. All of that stuff gets kind of like, I know it sounds like a lot, but all of that's part of the one one job.
That is a big deal. And I will touch on the anxiety, the performance anxiety. That's very real. I mean, you would think that because your passion is music and you love music, do you know how many people do not perform because of the anxiety keeps them right in their little box? Me being one of them. I went to music school. I did private voice classes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I always loved it. And I never did it because I was such a chicken, because that anxiety was real. I would have shaky knees to the point you could visibly see them. My lips would quiver. I would get really sick. And the nerves were just overwhelming to the point where I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is not fun. So to be able to unravel that and deal with it so that you can be a performer, I think that's a big deal. I did not know that you guys had, or there was any performance anxiety classes. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know I was one of those kids growing up, and I was always in choir. I was always doing performances and stuff, and it was still very real. And so to know that that's out there, I would have enrolled in that so quickly.
Yeah. So what's interesting about, so UNT's reputation in the College of Music, right? And the College of
definitely
Arts and Design as well. But these students are professionals. I mean, they're like already professional, even in their undergrad. And so what typically happens for them, it doesn't prevent them from performing or wanting to be, but if something happens, if something goes wrong, if they get injured physically, or if they get some really harsh criticism sometimes, that, or a really bad audition, you name it, any of that kind of stuff, that's sort of when I see them.
Oh, okay, because it could deter them from their life path that,
if they're not able to sort of just kind of get past it. Yeah.
Man, that's an amazing program to have set up for, because a lot of people just take it for granted that they know how to play. They're going to play whenever they need to, and that's it. It's not always like that. And you're very right about that anxiety, that performance, issues as far as the criticism, the pressure. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I had no idea that was even offered.
I mean, it's just me that's doing it. That's part of my kind of, it's part of, I'm like the only art therapist and the only performance therapist that we have on staff, but and I'm pretty booked because of that. There's a big demand for it. I wish everybody was trained kind of the same way I was, and we could serve more people. But
so you're in a town that is, I'm not going to say all music and art, and you're the only art therapist to all these students.
At UNT.
At UNT.
I have a friend in town who's also an art therapist.
Woo! Yeah. You have your work cut out for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a lot, because I would imagine, like you said you were booked all the time. So I know the students are finding you a good resource, a good, tool for them to help them along in their journey. So that's pretty important as far as what do the students see when they come in with you for whatever? Kind of shape it up for me. I don't know. So I want to know more about it. I'm very curious about art therapy.
Okay.
So what is it like for the students when they come in to see you? Obviously, you did mention those few things that, so what is it that they do with you?
So a lot of times these particular groups of students are being sent by professors or people in their department or even peers, right? So they're coming into the center knowing like that's the person that I want to see, right? So then they come in and, my office is completely full of art supplies and there's art everywhere. It's like
Nice.
bursting with art, right? So they obviously know that they're coming into a creative space. I think that's right off the bat. So even if they're not necessarily there for art therapy, they're looking around and they're like, what do you do with those paints? Why is there, why is there mosaic stuff here? Why is there clay? Why are these things in your office? So yeah. And so, I think that's the first thing that you see, and then you obviously I feel like when they're talking to me, they know that I understand, what being a creative major is, right? Because it has very specific kinds of just characteristics for being a creative major. It's not the same, right? So the business students don't feel the same way about, their grades or their performance as maybe a music student does. It's just a little less personal, right?
Yeah.
It's, a little more removed, a little more
Okay.
academic. Yeah.
So they're referred or they are word of mouth or whatnot. Somebody's referring them in. And then once they are referred into them, they walk into this nurturing artistic environment where basically they feel more closely to their element, so to speak. And then you start to unravel some of the anxiety that they may be facing. And then how long or how did the sessions go? What would be expected for an art therapy session, whether it be music or art? And what kind of tools are you putting in front of them? Are they gonna do art in that room with you? How does it happen? I'm so curious.
It's interesting because I do art therapy when it's appropriate, right? So if someone comes in for performance anxiety, art therapy might not be the way to address that. In fact, it's usually not. But anything else we can use it for, right? So any of your just kind of depression, anxiety, stress, kind of being overwhelmed, not really having words for your experience, all of that, it's so perfect for that.
Okay.
And even somewhat for the containment. So a lot of times when I see students, they're just completely overwhelmed.
Yes.
Right. So their emotions are just kind of everywhere and they don't even know which way is up. And they're just like, I don't, kind of like that. And that's a really good way to kind of ground and center and, kind of be present in the moment. So we use it for that sometimes. Sometimes there's stuff that needs to have a voice, needs to get out.
Yeah.
And so I say that art is kind of like another language, right? So then we can use it to kind of address these deeper things that don't have words a lot of times. We can use art as another language to express that stuff.
I like that saying, art as another language to express it. And obviously that's what art is. It is another language to express ourselves. But when it comes to therapy and healing, it takes on a whole different meaning because a lot of times as humans, we all like to repress things. We keep it inside and you're just, you get accustomed to keeping it in order, in check, when on the inside, it's everything but. And you're, like you said, they don't know which way is up. I can't even imagine the pressures and just the environment of deadlines, constant lack of sleep, everything adds and contributes to all of that. And just being able to come there and, like you said, center yourself and just, because a lot of times the biggest challenge, which causes us so much issue, is where do I start? Whatever that may mean to you in whatever issue, where do I start to unravel this? And it can mean anything to anybody, different things for different people, but where do I start to address these in a healthy way? And so to me, art therapy, I love talking about it. I'm learning from you. So I just find it very interesting because I'm a firm believer in art and I'm a firm believer in music and all of that being therapeutic to your soul. It is therapeutic in the sense of getting things out because it is our other voice. I feel that a lot in my poetry. I'm sure everyone else does feel it in their songwriting
Right.
and their music. So, so how long do these students stay with you, or is it just as needed or on their own personal schedule for them?
I mean, I would say it's as needed. We have 38,000 students to serve, so we try to keep things as short term as possible, and still really give good care to the students that come in to see us. So we kind of have to strike a balance there. So we don't have a session limit or anything like that. Some universities say, you can come for 6 sessions or whatever. We don't have that, but
Good.
we do try to keep it on the short term side, just because there is such a high volume, almost an impossible volume, honestly, to deal with.
Especially
sometimes.
for one person.
Yes, well, just for the whole center actually, but
Yeah.
yes, for my specific things that I do, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how your schedule looks.
I wish I could show it to you. It
Oh,
is something
man.
else. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, what kind of things do they walk away with leaving your office as far as the sessions with you? I mean, I would imagine it would be just similar to a regular session with, any kind of therapist. But what kind of tools do you leave them with when they leave you?
So I think it would depend on, I'll answer that a couple different ways, because I think it depends on what kind of modality we're using. So if we're doing performance enhancement, my goal is always for them to walk away with just a little bit less anxiety and just to remember what they're capable of. So that's the goal with performance anxiety work, is that they spend a lot of time remembering their brilliant performances and in the session. So I ask them to kind of pull these things up and we kind of look at them, because that just helps them remember why they're doing this and what they're capable of. And that sort of, we got to kind of like have the stuff that's not going well be less important, and have the other stuff be important. So that's what they would leave with, I think, for a performance anxiety session, or what I would hope for. For an art therapy session, my goal is to either let them leave it there in the art project, like get it out, put it in this project, leave it here to dry, and to see if you can just set it down, like set it down kind of metaphorically, like in your life, just put this issue down for a little bit. It'll be here when you come back next week or in 2 weeks, we'll pick it back up. So a little bit like that. Also, just the act of making art just is soothing and nurturing to our soul and all of that. So hopefully, if you come in and do art therapy and you leave an hour later, you feel differently. I think I can see it in people sometimes.
Yeah.
They look a little lighter, and there's some students that I say, leave this here. Just leave this here. And we'll pick it back up later.
Yeah.
Because I think that, the thing that happens when you're in your early 20s, like, I'm way grown and it's sometimes hard and things get overwhelming,
Yeah.
And so I think about being a young person and having all the different, demands and challenges, and then trying to figure out how you feel and what, just relationships, you name it, just all kinds of stuff going on. So just try to, leave a little bit of it there and then go see if you can, kind of manage the rest of the stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, just having someone tell you, I think I was speaking about this last week, about so many people do not realize that they don't have to carry their burden through life, whatever that may be. That if somebody would have just told them, put it down, you don't have to carry this burden, whatever that is. There's ways to deal with this, and you don't have to hold it through life into your adulthood or, whatever. And somebody telling you, just let it go,
Permission to set it down.
Yeah, permission
I want
to
them to
set
just
it
practice
down.
it, honestly. So I think that to do that is something that I think a lot of us would struggle with, just really setting, right? If that were the case, we could just all get over everything and we would all be, we'd all be great with no issues or whatever. But like, it's just the practice of sort of just like, I'm going to set this down for now, right? And it doesn't have to be, I would hope that for some of this stuff, it could be forever.
Yeah.
But
learn
just
how to breathe through it.
Yeah. Just take a break. Set it down for a minute. So it's kind of, I know we're talking about a lot of different things, but like it's a little bit different for every session, but it's such exciting work and it's good work. And it seems like I do get that sense, like this is actually kind of a really cool component of my job, is just how much I enjoy it and how it must feel weird saying that. Like most people are not, like
That's
in love with their job, but how, it's
a blessing.
And also what a fantastic day job for an artist, right?
Yeah. I mean, it really is.
It is.
Because
It's the best.
You're basically tapping into a passion to stir up emotions, to use that ball of energy of passion and love for art, music, whatever, and use that to heal whatever the ailment is. It's almost like its own elixir, if I can
It
say
is.
that.
No, absolutely.
And it's like, that it's something beautiful. Every artist knows that they get some sort of reward from it, but when you flip it and you put them in that environment and say, we're going to also use this to heal you while you're stressing about it, it kind of was, it's kind of like, whoa, okay, because it's causing stress, obviously, and then you flip it and reuse it, you kind of recycle it.
Yes.
So you have to just shift those gears, and I just find it so interesting. And I love, when I'm anxious and I'm just anxiety for whatever it is, deadlines and making everything happen, painting to me it just puts me.
Me too.
Yeah, it centers me. Obviously, yes.
Yep.
It's therapeutic. I feel so much better. Even if I don't finish the painting, I feel like, okay.
No, just doing it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not talking to someone, you're not talking to a therapist, just the act of doing it, just having your hands in that is that you're going to feel better.
I feel that way as well when I chop vegetables. So I may be the
Me too.
first
No.
vegetable chopping therapist.
No.
And I'm going to be offering classes, bell peppers, all of that. Very time consuming chopping.
Yeah.
Bell peppers are really good for this. So, but it's very therapeutic to me. And the smells and the aromas and the colors. I'm not
Seriously,
joking.
no. I mean, we have smells and aromas with art too. When
Nice.
when we pull out the oil stick is one of the things that I use with my clients a lot, and it has a very distinct smell, and it
Yes.
makes me happy.
Yes,
You
I
know, the smell of
understand.
oil paint. I'm like,
That's kind of like when we go school supply shopping. We
Right.
smell of pencils
Crayons
and
and-
crayons and all of that.
Yep.
It's one of those things. I promise this is not a weird show. I promise.
well, it's funny because when I talk about this, like people are like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of like magic." I mean, you said elixir, and I'm like, "Well, it's not far from it." I call it magic pretty frequently because it seems like it to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of on a spiritual, nonverbal level, and it's not even intended to be, but it just is going to be when we're healing through art or healing in general. I mean, honestly,
It really is, and you talk about, and we don't mean spiritual, religious in general.
No,
We
not
mean
like
just
that.
a spiritual sense of just feeling better in your soul and moving forward, and it's almost journey-like. It is
It
very
is.
much epic journey-like when you reach those points in your artistic career where you feel like, oh, I just hit a milestone. And, that milestone is pretty much the rock you just put down because you're carrying it, and then you keep going and you leave your little milestones behind. I don't know. That's how I see it. But yeah. So, okay. Aside from that, which I know keeps you so busy, I would be so interested in just watching one of those sessions too. Not that I want to, go peep on your sessions.
right? It is interesting though.
But it is
Yeah,
it is sounds very interesting. What else do you do? Because I know you've got some artistic talent outside of
well,
the
I like to
university.
think that I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that I've actually gathered a collection of paintings that were made as responses to my art therapy work.
Wow.
And hung them up in public. So utmost, obviously, respect and admiration for my clients. I'm not in any way trying to be like, I had to go paint this because your stuff is hard to deal with. Not at all like that, but I just feel really inspired by them. I feel really, I don't know. And actually a lot of the times some of these paintings were started in session with clients. And so those paintings are up right now. And I hardly have the words to talk about it because I'm not really sure. I feel like they inspired me. I feel like it's also the way to deal with an emotional job for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to have some place to put it too,
Yeah,
So if someone
definitely.
but if I end up witnessing, let's just say someone's trauma, right? So if I, as a clinician, when you witness that, it's heavy, right? Like I feel the same things that they're feeling while we're talking about it. So it's a really weird job in that sense, and we have to figure out how to like manage, how we're feeling about it, and what kind of the residual stuff that we're maybe left with. I've had actually clients like apologize to me about that, and I'm like, no, like I'm fine. I'm going to deal with it. And, this is your space to do that. But I've had clients say that. They're so sweet. They're just like, I'm sorry to put this on you. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to deal with it. And the way that I deal with it is hanging up at West Oak right now.
Nice.
So it's just kind of it's the first time I've done that. Really, like, truly, like, response art hanging up in public. It feels weird.
Well, it's one of those things that I would imagine is you feel rewarded in the environment where you're helping your students because that's your career, your passion, your everyday life. And then, like you said, you have to be able to process and deal with it, but it's also rewarding because you're able to give a glimpse of what it's like to be you and take their story and be able to translate that to a painting. And in my eyes, I would say it's almost giving them an honor to be able to tell their little story in the painting itself. Like, okay, this is what I deal with. This is what they deal with. You're not the only one, because a lot of times we want to be stuck in our sorrows, and we think we're the only ones, and you're not. You're really not. So the more people that relate to it, the more beneficial it becomes, the story, I would imagine.
Yes, all of that. I feel like I would be some kind of a hypocrite if I didn't do kind of practice what I preached, right? So if I'm like, art's so healing, and I don't do it, then that doesn't even make sense to me. Like, I don't mean to be preachy about that. And if there's any art therapists listening, do your art or don't do your art, whatever. But like, I just feel like that is just a critical part of the job. Yeah.
You come full circle.
I really do.
So how did you decide to hang up your stuff at West Oak?
So every once in a while I will get the, kind of the artist bug where I'm like, I know I'm working full time, but I really feel like I just want to, like, get a show up or just, kind of focus on that part of me. Right. Yeah. So I set that as a goal for 2019. And then I started looking around my office and I was like, I've got like a whole bunch of response art in here that's like half started. Some of it was done, and I thought, let's just see what happens if we actually put these all together, like, and intentionally kind of like put them in one space and really be like, I'm hanging my response art, which I, haven't done before. And they're fairly cohesive, which I think is really interesting. They look similar to each other. There's about 15 of them. They're little pieces because I have a really small, I used to work in a giant studio, so I used to do really big art. And now I work in a smaller space. And so all these paintings are pretty small. And, that's how it came together. And then Denton, of course, being Denton is, just supportive. Yes. And it was, not hard to, contact West Oak, who also supports the arts, and, and so it just worked out. And I'm just so happy about it because it does feel like it honors the work that I do with these students and it honors them and their journey, because there is a little, there are little bits and pieces of them in there for sure.
Definitely.
Right.
Inspiring.
And then just the artist part of my own identity and the thing that I'm, preaching all the time about, do art, it heals, it helps you with things. So kind of all of that. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of all came together. It's pretty cool.
It is cool. I think it's amazing that you're doing this, and I'm so glad that the students have you and whoever else helps in that capacity. But it's amazing to see how, the tools provided to them so that they can have a successful journey through their curriculum and their school journey. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for taking that on with a full appointment schedule. So if somebody was interested in becoming an art therapist, how would you well, I wouldn't say, where do you need to go to school for this?
No, but I see maybe, 3 to 4 students a semester that are not clients that just want to come in and talk to me about becoming an art therapist.
Really?
Yes. And I love talking to those students. I will make time to talk to those students because I want more people to go into the field of art therapy. And I mean, ultimately, I would love it if we had a training program here at UNT. Nice. That's far, far off into the future, I would think. But I had to go all the way to Colorado to go to school for it. Yeah. And then in Colorado, there's a ton of art therapists because people stay, right? And here there aren't enough. And so I just, that's kind of another maybe longer term goal that I would love to see a training program come to Texas somewhere at UNT possibly. But so I don't know. I would say if someone wanted to talk about, the career of art therapy, wanted to talk to me about it, to reach out to me personally, or to, go to the Art Therapy, American Art Therapy Association website, and all of the training programs are also listed there.
Okay. Well, see, I didn't know any of that, and that's good to know. You guys, y'all heard it here. She's plugging the links for you guys. If y'all have an interest in that, definitely pursue that. It's a beneficial path, I would imagine.
It is a beautiful job. Yeah,
very
beautiful
rewarding.
Career.
So let's say that they wanted to get a hold of you. Somebody is a student and they hear you on the show tonight and they want to get a hold of you because now they too would like to know more about your session and have a personal session with you. How and where are they going to be getting a hold of you?
So I would say if they're a UNT student, to call Counseling and Testing Services
Okay.
at the UNT campus, 940-565-2741. The easiest way is to call to make an appointment.
Okay. And so aside from that, if somebody were interested in your artwork.
Oh, yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
So I think social media is probably the easiest way to reach me. I was trying to think, do I want to say email? Do I want to? Yeah. I think social media is probably the easiest way to reach me. So Facebook or Instagram, Twitter.
And do you want to throw anything out there to link it or?
Yeah. Myriam Reynolds Wright on Facebook, Myriam Wright on Instagram, and Myriam Reynolds 2 on Twitter.
There you go.
Yeah.
All your social media plugs. Well, I'm so glad that I actually had you in my class, which is kind of weird because I'm like, you're really in it, and I do it once in a while, and now I feel like, wait a minute. It just so happened that you were in that class.
I know. And it was the very first one I ever took because I thought, why as an art therapist am I going to take this class? I had a ball in that class.
Thank you.
I loved it. I loved everything
you.
about it. And then I was like, oh, I get why these are so popular. Like I just, it didn't even dawn on me to like sign up for one until it was like at La Milpa, and it was like, so anyway, it was you guys.
I mean, we're sitting there in the back the big room, the bar over there at Milpa. So it's like, come on now, we're going to have a good time.
Yes.
And so we were so glad to host that. George was, very nice to have us there.
Yes.
And Iris, was very, very, she's my muse, guru, pro, inspiration. I always talk about
amazing.
her. Yeah, she's amazing.
You guys are both amazing, but
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But we do have a great time when we do stuff like that. So we will be doing another one. So we hope you guys will keep watch of those classes and definitely come back.
I think it's the perfect space.
I think so too. It's very artistic and whatnot. And I actually do have something that I did want to I should have had this in paper form, but I did not, and I will definitely read it. Just wanted to, let's see, Backyard on Bell. We're going to have an event, and of course, it would be for beautiful and battered women. I don't want to quote that name. I'm so sorry. I had it here. They're having an event at Backyard on Bell, and I should have had that, and I'll be able to reiterate that in a little bit. But thank you so much for. I'll drop the link on the feed here on the video for that event because I didn't have it ready. I thought I had the dates and everything, but it is April 10th, I believe, at Backyard on Bell. It is benefiting the organization Battered and Beautiful Women. So I hope I didn't axe that up or whatnot. So I apologize to you in advance, but we'll put the link in the comments. But thank you so much for sharing your story here with us and what you do. And I cannot wait to hear more about it later down the road and see you in another art class. And
absolutely.
Hopefully
thanks for having me.
Grow that team there. Grow that team.
Yeah. I feel like we need to do that. Yeah.
Definitely. We need to get some more art counselors here in Denton UNT. Thank you so much, Myriam, for joining us tonight. I really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you.
Come visit us again and maybe refer some of those super talented students that you have. I've been dying to tap into the UNT market of talent.
Oh, I could definitely do that.
Please do.
I will.
Please do. So if you have any students that are art, music, poetry, writing related, here we go. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Denton Vibe with Diva Girl Ellie here on Denton Radio. We will see you next week, and you guys have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. We want to thank our partners and sponsors who made this show possible. And now stick around for a word from all of us here at Discover Denton.